field growth and balance with heart rate variability, which is accepted as one of the best indicators of overall health. Oh, they have a difficult time moving the needle on that because they've tried lots of different things, but they find in this research that an expanded balanced field moves the needle on heart rate variability. And that's essentially your body's ability to adapt to its environment, or the epigenetic concept.
Right.
So it's pretty exciting work, and you have to begin by quantifying the field. You have to know what it is you're dealing with. And so we have a way of quantifying it. Interestingly, if you're a female, we bring an energy towards you of a male endocrine supplement, because your body is not going to really be interested in a male endocrine supplement if you're a female. So at the point in space where you lose the lock on the muscle, that's the place where you could say, okay, this is how big your field is. So you can quantify the field before you start doing the testing procedure. And then, of course, at the end, you quantify it again to see what the growth of the field is, and did you balance it out if it was asymmetrical. So,
Dr. Frank, can we just back up a little bit and say, would you explain basically muscle testing to people who perhaps hadn't heard about this before? Because I know that you're using examples there already of that, so I'd like to let you tell what that is.
Well, muscle testing is, a muscle test is the muscle strong? A muscle response test is, did the muscle react? So if you think about it from a perspective of your environment, you bring something into your environment that the body likes and appreciates, it's going to make the test muscle stronger. If it doesn't really care for it, if there's something toxic about it or something the body really doesn't like about it, it's going to weaken the muscle. So you can ask questions of the field. You bring something into the field, the muscle will lose the lock. It's really pretty simple. As a matter of fact, it's one of those things like, well, once you see it, it's so obvious. And, the muscle response, I think, is something that people need to experience. I can talk about it. I can educate people about why it happens. As Kryon says about it, he says that muscle testing, a quote from Kryon, it's clear that it works, but it might not be clear why it works. So that is one of the things he says about it. And I have to say the same thing, except that if you are like me and you accept that the innate intelligence, the body wants to have a conversation with you, and it wants to share its knowledge in this way, you can ask questions of the muscles in a very specific order and then follow that energy. So one of our slogans in morphogenic field technique is just follow the energy. You find the energy of the problems, you collect them up, you have them hold those energies, and then you want to neutralize those energies at the end with whatever it takes to do that. So in the work that Bruce Lipton does, Bruce is the father of epigenetics, and the field represents your body's ability to talk to its environment, because it's the environment that breaks the genes. So in the world, we're born who we are. You have the genes of your mother, and you have the genes of your father, and so you're half of each. But it's the environment that decides whether those genes are going to express in a negative way or a positive way. So that's what it comes down to. And since the body's energy field is the way the body will pick up information from its immediate environment, if you ask the right question in the right order and do it in that way, you can take all those problem energies, find really good, 100% natural, always going to be natural, solutions that are going to neutralize those energies. The field will grow, it will be bigger, and that's your bubble. So that's your protection against what's going on out there. In this world of COVID now, we've got a situation like some people are dying from it, and other people have antibodies for it and don't even know how they got them, or didn't even know they had the COVID. And so what's the difference between those people? How does that relate? Why does one person get so sick and possibly, lose their life over something that somebody else doesn't even know existed in their body. Well, in my work, since COVID came out, I've got the energy of the COVID vial. I've tested it on multiple people, some of them symptomatic, some of them not symptomatic. But my experience with it is within 24 to 48 hours, you can take somebody who's symptomatic, that test for that energy, find the thing that neutralizes the energy, shut it off, and darned if they don't feel better. And
Wow.
New big balanced field is what I attribute that to. Innate intelligence of the body told me what to give them. All I had to do was give it to them. So I'm just the messenger, I'm just picking up the information from Innate. And, I've been doing it long enough and I've had enough experience that I know how to get to the answer in pretty short order. And then, of course, if you've got something that's really cool like that, you want to be able to share it with people. Mm-hmm. So that's why I've taught all those seminars for the last 10 years. And with the COVID shutdown, then I had to find a new way of doing it. So I had to come up with an online academy to get the educational aspect of it out there. I don't get to go out and show off the energy, at least not yet. Pretty soon I hope.
I think that is so fascinating. And I would love you to share with us an example of someone having a particular condition, you going into the field and then finding the remedy, and talk us through one example, because I'm so fascinated by this topic. And what was the length of time that the client took to respond to your treatment? Was it fast? Was it slow? And I love everything you're saying is holistic. You are chiropractic, you had kinesiology, you are looking at nutrition, you're looking at the herbs and homeopathy, which is also a signal to Innate. So I would love you to share some case studies with us.
Oh boy, there's so many. Well, what comes to mind as you're talking about that, the hardest things to treat always involve the nervous system, because when you're dealing with things at the cellular level, some cells turn over very quickly. For example, your skin turns over every month. The lining of your intestinal tract takes about 2 weeks to turn over, but nervous system tissue does not. It takes 7 years to turn over the whole entire nervous system. And so anytime somebody comes in with a chronic degenerative condition and they improve, then you really made a significant improvement in their lives. So I guess cases of multiple sclerosis, I've had several of those. In the Northwest here, we're kind of famous for having a predominance of multiple sclerosis. But in my findings in testing the field, the body wants to talk about heavy metals usually with multiple sclerosis. And so that seems to be the primary communication. So I call it the quantum conversation when I'm doing this procedure. And that's what it seems to want to talk about. So then it comes down to, okay, what does the field say about the solution? So we have an energy of the nosodes of multiple sclerosis, and we just test that against the body, see if the body agrees with the diagnosis. It doesn't always. And if it does agree, you have them hold the energy of that to induce Innate to tell you exactly what to do with that person at that moment for that condition. And so if you can get a really good response on somebody with a condition in the nervous system within 4 to 6 months, you've done very well. And so the case that comes to mind was one of a postal carrier who had to retire because she couldn't do her job anymore after her diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And she came in and I said, well, we're going to talk to your field and see what it says. Well, what it said was mercury in the spinal cord. Oh. So we started in, and she started feeling better within a month. Well, within 6 months, she was back to work.
Wow.
And that is like unheard of. That wasn't supposed to happen. And medically, they don't really know what to do with that. It's and of course, I don't claim to treat anything. I treat energy, So I just follow the energy, and I never take credit for anything because I developed a technique, but I'm not the one who gave the information about what to do for the aberrant energy. Whatever the solution is, that came from Innate.
That's
People have
fascinating.
asked, how can they listen to their own Innate? Do you have any?
Well, it's actually the field's the key. First of all, somebody who's very sick doesn't have the field. Their body is taking and holding that energy in really tight. It doesn't want to let it go out. And so that's a challenge. We have to start off sometimes with giving people energies that will artificially enhance their field just so I can get the field to talk to me.
Right.
We have to enhance the field. It's like the old dial-up internet. Remember the old dial-up internet? You you get information, but it took forever. Right? So if we enhance the field and get the field out there before we start the conversation, that's more like broadband, and you get a lot of information in a short period of time, which is really kind of nice. So what you're dealing with is, do you have the ability to get information from your field? So that's a question like, have you been taking good care of yourself? How are you basically, as far as your diet? Are you trying to eat organic? Are you trying to stay away from the GMOs? Are you, been around a lot of toxic chemicals or heavy metals? So everybody's an individual. And so there's no simplistic answer for it, but the fact of the matter is everybody can be improved. And, I think if you can walk around with about a 5 to 7 foot measurable field, you're going to do pretty well. You're going to be moving toward health. We've introduced genetic energies within the last years, and because of the Human Genome Project and because there's a lot of genetic information available now, you can acquire the energy of it. And so within the last year, we've been able to create what I call super fields. We're able to get the field out about 10 feet. And when you do that, you get some really great information that we didn't have access to even a couple of years ago. So we're continuing to grow our knowledge, and we're continuing to develop it and improve upon it. And it's really very rewarding if you're me, and if you are a practitioner who really wants to help people and you want to do it naturally. That's a great way to go. But we have a lot of people who are interested in our online academy just for the very fact that they want to do it on their kids. They want to just play with the energy, and they want to have energy experience and kind of bask in it,
So Frank, this makes it sound like with your online academy, which actually I think that's a positive to come out of the COVID, because probably you never would have gone down that pathway.
A lot more people. Just
like Lee and I would never necessarily have gone down the pathway of online streaming if it wasn't for COVID. So there is definitely many blessings there. Your description of people doing the online academy and then doing it on their kids and practicing it makes it sound like it's so easily accessible for anyone to learn that technique. Have you found that's the case?
It is. It's really easy to learn to play with it. It's really easy to learn how to acknowledge differences in energy and healing potential. The problem is many of the tools we use to improve the field are professional nutritional products or homeopathy, things that are unavailable sometimes to your average person. And so that's probably a little bit of a blockage for them to, if they have access to that. Most things can be ordered through Amazon now, so people are kind of doing an end run around some of the professional blockages to them acquiring some of these tools. But I think as we go along, there's going to be more people accepting the field, using it as a tool to know where their health status is. That's why I really like the objectifying of it that's happening with the heart rate variability, because you can, with a smartphone, you can measure your heart rate variability. So you can see improvements in that, which is a really accepted objective finding that shows that what you're doing is definitely beneficial.
Are you talking about the HeartMath app?
No, not the heart math. This is I'm using something called Elite HRV because that was what the people doing the research in Missouri were using. So I started using it in my office because I wanted to have some like interprofessional, uh, you know, what do I want to say? Just to confirm that what they were finding is what I could find in the real world.
Yeah.
Heart rate variability I've now heard this so many times, it just contains a tremendous amount of information, a lot more than people think. And
yes, it was developed by the Russians and the Soviets, rather, I should say, back in the 1980s to improve the performance of their athletes, their Olympic athletes. And it's stuck around ever since, and it's pretty generally accepted to be probably the greatest indicator of overall vitality and healing ability. So it's nice to correlate it to what I'm doing with the field.
It's great.
I've been trying to move the needle on it for a long time, and they seem to be having some success with it.
Many people, just because we got lots of people for the first time, also don't understand what epigenetics truly is. They've heard the word.
All right. Well, everybody knows genetics, right? So your genes, they used to say your genes were your fate, and they talked about it for well over 100 years. They believed that however you were born, that's what you were going to be. So Bruce Lipton, the first book I read on it was Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief. And he talked about the cell membrane being the communicator with the cell nucleus, and he compared it to a processor in a computer. So if you had a good processor, if you had a good healthy cell membrane, you could get information from the environment into the nucleus of the cell. So you can affect the genetic makeup of the cells by having an environment that was compatible. So that's epigenetics. In other words, your genes aren't your fate. What your genes are is your strengths or your weaknesses. And then epigenetics is how has the world messed you up or improved you, right? So in a really good environment, you're going to have some genes expressed in the wrong way. So smoking, for an example, anything you could put into your body, any bad food can have an epigenetic problem. That's your environment. All the air you breathe in, that's your environment. All the electromagnetics flying through the air, that's all part of your environment. So, and those are like bad things, but the good things, organic food, the things that nature would naturally have provided us had our environment not been messed with so much by the people who stand to profit from it. So, of course, that's a battle that I've had to do, but I've also had to create problem energies for things like Roundup. I've been talking against Roundup because the field talked against Roundup for the last 10 years.
Wow.
And you bring Roundup around the body, it destroys the field. Cool. You get somebody in front of a smart meter, it destroys the field. So anything conversely that expands the field out, that's good for you. And so that's what we're all about. We're all about let's create the big balanced field and then watch what happens. So.
And is this something someone can come to you, they don't have any symptoms of any health problems, but they're curious and they want to just find out, do I need a tune-up or is there something I don't know about? How do you work in that process?
Well, it's just let's talk to the body. Let's see what the body says. The quantum conversation is just a conversation. So you can have a conversation about things that aren't symptomatic yet, because the absence of symptoms doesn't imply that you're going to be absolutely healthy. So people come in with symptoms. That's usually what brings them in. But I've never had anybody come in that they weren't there for just, I wanted to increase my human potential, for example. And I've been able to measure their field, enhance their field, and everybody's field as they walk around. If you're doing well, it's about 5 to 7 feet. We now know we can get it out to about 10 feet on a pretty regular basis. We haven't been doing it long enough to say for a fact what comes from that, but it's a lot of fun finding out.
Are you doing that completely through muscle testing?
Yes. There's different ways of muscle testing. I don't know what level of experience the audience has, but most people, when they do testing, test the muscle of the person they're testing, because that's a circuit of energy in the body. It really doesn't matter whose muscle you use. So a lot of the testing I do is switching back and forth between using their muscle and using my muscle, because actually energetically I'm a little more sensitive, so I find things a little faster. But you always have to demonstrate on them, make it real to them, because if it isn't real to them, that's going to be an issue for them doing what you've asked them to do.
To say that again now, if it's not real to them, that's a consciousness issue, isn't it?
That is a consciousness issue, right? And so, I have to look back to my own history, even though I've been doing muscle response testing for, over 40 years. When I first saw it, I was in the world of science, and it didn't look scientific. Well, nobody had given me an explanation that said, wow, this is really a scientific way of testing things. They've done research on it, and it's been documented that it does work, and like Kryon says, it's not really clear why it works necessarily, but it works. And so, yeah, you either have the faith, maybe it's faith. It's just part of my reality, so I don't question it at all. I'm just talking to Innate, and I trust Innate. Innate knows what they're doing, male or female Innate. That information is golden. It can fool you a little bit, but if you ask in a system of testing where you ask the right question in the right order, it's like 20 questions, like, is it bigger than a bread box? And then the answer to that is going to direct the next question. Is it going to be bigger than a bread box? And then that directs what the next question is going to be. So it's like 20 questions for Innate. And when you get all done, Innate has come up with something that in its priority, what it wants today is what it's going to tell you. And then you go with that. And then on the next session, you build on it.
I love what you just said. You have to trust Innate. This is so Kryon-esque. In the channeling, and every time...
Is that a word, Kryon-esque?
Kryon-esque, yes. There is actually... You won't find it in the dictionary yet, but that will be someday. And Cryonite is another one. It's not a substance that hurts Superman. That's somebody who reads the books. But trusting Innate, that's I would say most of the battle. Do you believe it? Is it there? It's almost like the trust in Innate lets it come forward. And you said something else too that I just loved. You said, if you ask Innate, what it really wants, it wants to talk to you, because it's invested. It is us. It's invested in our health and wants to give us information. So you are the catalyst. You're the guy who listens and shows us how to do it.
It's. I've been through a lot of the battles, because you have to learn how to say things in ways that not only do they understand, but you have to understand that a certain percentage of people are going to want to name call or feel threatened by it in some way, and you have to, honor them for who they are that way. But you can't let them change what you're up to. You got to get in there and do the battle and try to come up with a way of showing the field and a way of demonstrating the power of the field. They need enough time to let Innate do its job. You're going to get some miracle cures, but that's a double-edged sword, because people who get better too quickly don't really appreciate necessarily the severity of their underlying issues.
Explaining the unexplainable. That's, again, you've hit that many, many times. And I think that's just part of our work, and that's what we're all trying to do. We are out of time, and this has been, it goes so quick.
Yeah, that went fast, yeah.
I know. Thank you so much. Anything you want to say in a goodbye way?
No, I'm just grateful for you having me on. I knew I needed to talk to you about this for a while, Lee, and I've been to many events and left my kids at home, and I thought, no, I'm not ready to show it to him yet. So
Everything is timing.
And
It is.
I love that you have solutions. And if you are out there listening and you do have a health issue right now where you have not been able to find answers, perhaps this is exactly what you're looking for someone who can talk to your innate, because innate does have all your answers. And Frank is available. He has his website, which was, I believe,
morphogenicfieldtechnique.com.
That's it, morphogenicfieldtechnique.com. And through his website, you can find out more. You can see if you want to get a consultation. There's the online academy that's starting to happen. And thank you, Frank, for bringing your gifts and talents to the world and sharing it.
Well, thank you, Monica, and thank you, Lee, because you guys have been such an inspiration to me. And I don't know how far along I would be without hearing, what Kryon has to say about it, because, even though I'm out there doing it, getting a confirmation from Kryon helps move me forward. That's encouragement to me.
Awesome. Except you're so kind to say so. All right. We've got to say goodbye to Frank, and now it's time for the one and only break we have.
Yes, take a break because we are coming back for my favorite part, which is going into the healing circle of 12.
Great.
So get a drink of water, whatever you need to do, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. welcome back. We trust you did all you needed to do for this final last section of the Healing Wednesday. We're now moving to, I think, my favourite part.
It's my favorite part.
Yeah. I hope it's your favourite part as well. So we're going to move into the Circle of 12. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we do this?
This has been a great program.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all great programs, but I've enjoyed myself a lot on this one, and I hope you have too. I love talking about CERN. We have a great interview, and so I'm ready.
Wonderful. So let's prepare. And as we prepare for the Circle of 12, let us begin by giving honour and thanks to Mother Gaia. She is our original parent, and Mother Gaia gives us all we need. Thank you, Gaia, for being here. Thank you, Gaia, for loving us. And let us give honour and thanks to the Star Mothers. Thank you, Star Mothers, for being here. Thank you, Star Mothers, for loving us. The Star Mothers are our spiritual parents who came to Earth as part of a grand system to give us the spark of divinity. This piece of God that lives inside is the power of the God energy within the human being. You are part of the system of the Creator that is biased in love, and let us affirm our willingness to receive the unconditional love of the Creator. I am willing to accept the perfect love of the Creator. I am willing to accept the perfect love of the Creator. I am willing to accept the perfect love of the Creator. Let us now continue towards the Circle of 12, and let us affirm that we give permission to connect with the God inside.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon. Come a little closer. Come a little closer. The Circle of 12 is a metaphor. It's a special time for a human being to cognize or believe that they are bigger than they were told, and that just perhaps they can move into a reality that only seems to be one that you could visualize. But visualizations are then perhaps a trick of the consciousness where you pretend to be somewhere else. But here we are going somewhere else. If this is the first time that you have heard this, and it is for some, I know who's listening. The idea of all of this, the premise of all of this, is that the human is built for so much more than you think. And that the dimensionality that you believe is real, that which you consider all